Hello, my name is Jeff Mason, and today I was hoping to show you some 3-note per string scale patterns for modes of the major scale, the melodic minor scale, and the harmonic minor scale. So I got these from a book by Frank Gambale called Improvisation Made Easier, and it was an excellent book for me. It showed me a lot of sort of patterns you could connect all over the fretboard, and I thought I would demonstrate. Using the metronome here, I got it set to 120, and let's start with the major scale at F. So this is F major. So that is 2 octaves and 3 notes per string. So 3 notes here, 3 notes here. And that is the basis for sort of the other modes, the 7 modes of that, and the 7 modes of melodic minor and harmonic minor as well. I wasn't aware of that before I got the book, but I've been working through them and they're quite interesting. Some of them are very exotic. So what you can do with these shapes is you can transpose them. Like I'll demonstrate that. That was F major. This would be F sharp major going up 1 fret. G major. G sharp. A. A sharp, E, C, C sharp, D, okay, E flat, E, like that. Anyway, so you can transpose those, and that brings us back to F, and that's all 12 keys. So now, the book itself actually gives only the keys of E and A. That leaves it up to you to transpose them all. So that's something that I found to be a pretty valuable exercise in that taking a pattern of a scale and moving it through all keys. So that's what you just saw there. Also, there are 7 modes of the major scale, and he gives 3-note per string patterns for those as well in each chapter. So the second mode would be the Dorian scale. The Dorian scale looks like this. If we were in G major, that'd be over a minor 7 chord. So again, and then the third mode of F major would be A Phrygian, and it sounds like this. Then Lydian. Mixolydian. Then minor. And then finally Locrian. That brings us back to S. So, yeah, that would be the 7 modes of F major. So those boxes can be transposed to any key as well. So if we started in F Dorian, it would sound like this. F sharp. G. G sharp. Sorry. And yeah, so what you can eventually end up with that is you can do triplets very easily. With 3 notes, you can come up with triplets. Like that. And you can have them anywhere in the neck. You can have them. That was in C Dorian. And as long as you have this pattern, you can. It's a box, so you can move anywhere up and down the neck. So continuing, you can move on to the Phrygian box. We'll have this in G Phrygian. It sounds like this. The triplets. Oops. G sharp. And so on until you can move it up here. F Phrygian, and so on. The main advantage of these is that you can connect them all together. So you can start in F major, move to G Dorian, A Phrygian, B flat, A sharp, Lydian, mixed Lydian, D mixed Lydian, and that's D minor, E Locrian, Locrian, and F major. So that covers the entire neck, as you can see, from the 1st fret to the 13th to the 15th. And so you can start patterns like this. Something like that. I found that it helps a lot in the sort of horizontal playing where you may have heard licks like that, and I found that that greatly improved my speed to be able to connect all of these forms together. And of course you can put that in F sharp, G, and so on. So that would be the minor scale, major scale, diatonic scale, all containing the same notes, and all separate boxes, but they can all be used interchangeably. So for instance, if there was a chord progression that had F major, you could play A Phrygian over that. Demonstrate this. This is also from Frank Gambale's excellent book, Improvisation Made Easier. And these are 3-note per string patterns for extra speed and fluidity and horizontal connectivity. So, first of all, we'll start with the chord that is built from this scale. It would be a minor major 7 chord, and it sounds like this. G minor major 7. Just kind of a weird sound. And you may wonder what that's used for. It is used in jazz standards and some classical pieces, I would imagine. But the scale built off of it is pretty interesting. It sounds like this. And that would be G melodic minor or G jazz minor, melodic minor. There's a lot of different names for this scale, and it can be kind of confusing, but that is the intervals and the chord. So it basically has sort of a mysterious kind of quality to it, if you had to describe it. Now, what I found especially interesting is that there are modes of this. And to make a really long story short, it took me several years to figure this out. The melodic minor scale is the same as the major scale, except it has one flat. It has a flat third. So instead of, it has, so there's only one note different from your typical major scale. And that means, this is kind of a leap of logic, but that means that all of the modes derived from the melodic minor are the same as the diatonic modes, such as Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, etc., but with one flat. So all of the modes, a melodic minor, correspond with the major modes. So there's Dorian, flat 2, Phrygian, let's see, you could call it Lydian sharp 5, but it would also correspond to Phrygian something, and Lydian flat 7, which is Mixolydian with one flat, Mixolydian flat 6, Mixolydian with a different flat, Aeolian flat 5, which would be minor with one flat, and Diminished Wholetone, which would be Locrian with one flat. So, like I said, it took me quite a while to grasp this material, but I'll demonstrate it here. So, I guess I'll start with the most common modes that I've encountered of the melodic minor. So that was melodic minor, and this is the fourth mode, Lydian flat 7. And this outlines a 7 sharp 11 chord or 13 sharp 11 chord, which sounds something like that. If you had it in triplets, it would be. And that's a kind of a different sound. You can use that, for instance, in a blues progression, where you have some kind of 7th chord through going. You could. It has kind of a different flavor, and basically, again, so as not to get too confused, it would be the same as a Lydian scale with one flat. So Lydian flat 7. This would be the flat 7 interval there, and this would be the sharp 5 noting Lydia there. So it's this kind of thing to it. Okay, the other scale that I found to be the most useful out of these modes is the diminished wholetone, or altered scale. Now this is an excellent scale. I use it a lot in my jazz videos that are on this page, and I'll just demonstrate it quickly. And it has kind of a sinister sound at first, but what you will start to hear as you listen to more sort of jazz recordings like Glenn Miller or any of the bop artists such as John Coltrane or Miles Davis or any of those people, They use this scale a lot, and they use it not just over altered chords and dominant chords, but also over major chords as a substitution and so on. So it's interesting to get this scale and transpose it. First of all, it is it's called the altered scale because it contains all of the alterations that you can add to a 7th chord. So if I had a 7th chord, the alterations you can add to that would be the flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5, sharp 5, flat 7, in various octaves all over the deck. But basically the scale has all of those tones. So if I was playing a G7 chord, and then I played that would be all the possible alterations of that chord, including the ever popular 7 sharp 9, 7 flat 9, augmented, sharp 5, and 13 flat 9. Pretty much anything you can come up with as a 7th chord that would create a lot of extra flavor and spice over that, opening up all of the altered tones available. So the interesting thing about this scale is that it's a mix of diminished and whole tone. So it starts diminished as whole tone, diminished again, whole tone. And so like here would be the regular whole tone scale, like few mistakes, but that's whole tone, and this would be diminished. And if you combine those two scales, starting with diminished and alternating between diminished and whole tone, you would have a mode of the melodic minor scale. So that seems like a pretty convenient coincidence to me, in that you can have such a durable, versatile sound, and it's basically just the same as A flat major. So I was very impressed with that, and I've been working with that a fair bit, and I'll just I'll sort of try and demonstrate the sound that this is used for. So if we had a 7 sharp 9 sort of chord, this is a static kind of amp, something like funk thing like that. You could have a Hi, my name is Jeff Mason, and in this video I'll be demonstrating the modes of the harmonic minor scale. Now, whereas my previous video involved the melodic minor scale, which more or less has applications in jazz and fusion, with players such as Al Di Meola, Alan Holdsworth, and Frank Gambale, the harmonic minor scale and its modes are used a lot in heavy metal by people such as Yngwie Malmsteen, Kirk Hammett, Marty Friedman from Megadeth, and Paul Gilbert. They all use these scales quite a bit, and you may recognize this. I'll just start with the basic 3-note per string pattern again. This is again taken from Frank Gambale's book, Improvisation Made Easier, which I would highly recommend. So I'll just start with the harmonic minor scale. It's basically a minor scale with 1 sharp. Which would be the, if we were at A minor, it would be A flat. So it sounds like this. And the 2 octaves. sort of dismal sound, sort of depressing sound, or some people have even called it an Egyptian or Arabian sound, so because of licks like stuff like that. That would be an Offspring song called "Keep Them Separated." But yeah, some people use that as an Arabian sounding thing or an Egyptian sounding thing, if you prefer. But it is used a lot in classical music, chamber music, and Baroque music as well. It's not just for Arabian sounding things. This scale is used a lot in heavy metal. I've encountered it a ton in a whole bunch of Metallica tabs, for instance, and lots of tabs by other metal bands like Megadeth and Slayer and Pantera and so on. And basically, the thing to do would be to play it, distorted and aggressively, and try and make riffs out of it, like stuff like that. That's a pretty common sound. Now, what's interesting to me about this scale is it is the same as a minor scale with one sharp, and just like the melodic minor in jazz, it has a whole bunch of modes, and I found these to be in the solos to these songs. For instance, the second mode of the scale, I believe, would be Dorian sharp 11. This is an interesting sound. I'll demonstrate it. Now, the best example I can think of this scale used to be the solo to Blackened by Metallica, the first track from And Justice for All, 1988. And in it, the solo is in F sharp, and it's an F sharp Dorian sharp 11. So it has some sort of thing like that. I'm forgetting right now, but I did the song earlier, a year ago, I guess, on this page, so you can check that out. But it is, again, the Dorian scale, but with one sharp. So that would give us Dorian sharp 11, and it's sort of like an F sharp fab happening. Has that sort of sound to it, and I found that to be very interesting and exotic sounding for the thrash sort of heavy metal sort of sound, and I would recommend trying it. No more common mode of this scale would be the Phrygian sharp 3 scale, which I'll demonstrate, and you may recognize this. And this has also been called Egyptian or Arabian or Middle Eastern or whatever you want to call it, and it's been used a lot by Slayer and Nile, I guess, and lots of weird bands like that, but it basically has this sort of sound. Like, you may recognize it sort of a Slayer sound, like something like that. It's also used a lot by Yngwie Malmsteen, who I've attempted to cover also on YouTube, and he has licks that are like that sort of flavor, that are very sort of exotic sounding, if you will, but that's also used in classical music. I'll touch on that elsewhere. Also, another mode that you may never have heard of at all, but which I've recently found out, is called the Lydian Sharp 9 mode, and it sounds like this. So again, it's Lydian. Instead of Sharp 5 or Flat 7, this is a Sharp 9. And it's also, again, a mode. That has a very ominous sound. The application I found for this scale was in the Megadeth song Symphony of Destruction, which has a... however that goes, and it's an E Lydian Sharp 9, and it sounds something like this. Nothing like that. And you can get some pretty crazy sounds going. Marty Friedman's known, of course, for his exotic scales, and that would be one of them, Lydian Sharp 9. So, of course, there's other modes. I haven't yet found applications for them, but again, they would be basically like the major or minor scale with one alteration. So, you can experiment and find your own patterns, but that would definitely help you play leads over heavy metal songs. So, good luck. Hi, my name is Jeff Mason, and today I was going to be talking to you about the diminished scale and its various applications. So let's see what I can demonstrate here. This is the diminished scale. Set it to 120 here at metronome, and it'll be in G. Now, you may be wondering what that's used over. First and foremost, it's used over a diminished chord. The diminished chord is built like this. Or this, the 10th fret. So, you may have heard something like this. Diminished patterns repeat themselves every minor third up the neck. So it sounds something like this. And that is a sound you may recognize from somewhere or other, but the pattern with diminished scales in any key is that they repeat themselves. So in G diminished, it would more or less begin itself again. Flat third above, so it sounds like this. And again. And again. So that's a pretty far out sound for some of you, no doubt, but it's very useful in jazz and classical music, and also in certain crazy rock songs. But the thing to remember about a diminished scale is, there are only 4 of them. So this would be G, B flat, D flat, and E, and all 4 of those are the same notes. So it's a pretty interesting scale in that regard. It also goes along with something called the augmented scale, which I touched on earlier, which would be based on an augmented chord, which sounds like this. La, la, la. That's kind of that old 50s thing, but it's also used in metal and all kinds of other stuff, so, jazz as well. So this is an augmented scale. Let's get the metronome going. that outlines the augmented chord or the 7 sharp 5 chord if you prefer. And 7 sharp 5 up here would be. And let's see, the thing about the augmented scale is like the diminished scale, it repeats every 2 frets. It has a symmetrical sort of structure, and there are only 2 augmented scales. So here would be G augmented, A, B, D flat, E flat, F, G, and A, and so on. So what you could do with that, here's another pattern of the augmented scale, and it goes like this. After experimenting with this, I've noticed that you can sort of move this up and down the neck, like here's these 2 notes, for instance. And you can play this. And that is just sort of repeating that every 2 frets. Then of course the scale repeats too. So and it's got kind of a far out sound, and that can be used and all kinds of shred and stuff for all kinds of special effects, like weird stuff like that. And again, there's only 2 augmented scales and 4 diminished scales, so those are interesting, quite useful. And let's see, a couple of the applications I found for these scales, one of them would be in neoclassical shred, as they call it, and players like Yngwie Malmsteen use these sort of patterns a lot. Or he plays them really fast, like. And so on. And the reason for that is in chamber music, that figure appears quite a bit. So we're talking music from the 1700s. And say you're in A harmonic minor. This note, A flat, the leading tone, would be the basis for a diminished scale, and it's used a lot in classical. And here, you might recognize this. So we started in A harmonic minor, and then went to diminished, leads back into harmonic minor. So also you could use the whole scale. What I was using was a diminished arpeggio, and it sounds like this. And it repeats itself every 3 frets. And that gets kind of a screaming sound. It's pretty cool. Yngwie Malmsteen basically pioneered that, as far as I know. Alright, also, you can use a whole diminished scale. I've been trying to experiment with this a bit, so you could have a lick that would be something like. could be a diminished sort of sound for you to experiment with. Thank you. Hi, this is Jeff Mason once again, here to talk to you about diminished scales and diminished whole tone scales in jazz and the major substitutions that they can be used for. So, first of all, I'd like to talk about the half-whole diminished scale, which is a scale used in jazz, and it's exactly the same as the diminished scale. However, it starts a step below. So, I will play you the original diminished scale. That's at the 120, and it's in G. So it goes. And that is what I was talking about in the previous lesson. It goes over diminished chords. So what you can do with that in jazz is if you play that scale up a fret, then you have a mode essentially of the diminished scale called the half-whole diminished. It's called the half-whole diminished because it starts on a half step, and it continues basically in a symmetrical pattern that's more or less like half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step. So they call it the half-whole diminished, basically differentiated from the whole half diminished, which would be the standard diminished. Now, so that would be whole half diminished. So the application for this is in jazz, where you have a 7 sharp 9 or flat 9, 7 flat 9, and this is the scale you would use, and it sounds like this. It's basically the diminished scales are starting a fret lower. So G half-whole diminished. Oops, just a minute. Okay. Now, the way you would use that is for a 7 flat 9 chord resolving to a major chord. So it would sound something like this. If you had this chord, 7 flat 9, so that would basically resolve as a 5-1. So 7 flat 9, G, 7 flat 9 to C major. Some variety thereof. C major 9, or whatever you'd like. Yeah, I found that to be very useful, and listening to a lot of players like, let's see, Alan Holdsworth, Sean McLaughlin, and Al Di Meola, they constantly play the scale, and you can hear them playing stuff like that sort of thing. So I was quite taken with that sound. I've recorded a bunch of stuff with it, and I think it's a pretty cool sound. The 7 flat 9 to major, to the 1 major chord would be a pretty consonant sound. It's more like it's more a major sort of sound, because the half step of the flat 9, the 7 flat G7 flat 9, easily goes into the 5th of the 1 chord above it. So now, another thing you can use instead of half-whole diminished would be the diminished whole tone scale, which I covered in the melodic minor modes video, and that would sound like this. So if you had a 7 sharp 9, which would be something like this, you can play it up here, and you want it to resolve to G. That would usually go to G minor. So if you were playing in a Dorian sort of format or blues, you would be playing something like this. This is again in C, so you know. So again, the sharp 9, just like the flat 9, leads to the 5th of a major chord. The sharp 9 leads to the minor 3rd, has more of a minor sound. So diminished whole tone and half-whole diminished are used quite a bit in jazz, but not just over static 7 sharp 9 chords. The main thing I wanted to show you about this technique is it can be used over major material. So, for instance, if we had a progression that was in B flat, and it was doing something like, you know, 3/6. If we had something like this going and we had a kind of a swing beat, you know. Yeah, major. That would be a pretty traditional sound, but if you incorporated into B flat the F diminished whole tone scale, and it would sound something like this. So, if you could hear that, I was incorporating... Hi, if you could hear that, I was incorporating the F altered or F diminished whole tone over B flat major material. So, you can do that anywhere in any jazz song, in any blues song, and it really jazzes it up. And what it is it's called a substitution. So rather than playing the B flat major scale, you can play the F diminished whole tone scale, which is something like and it creates sort of a momentum between the one chord and the 5 chord. And what you're creating is a 5-1 cadence, like in your lead lines. So if you're playing, again, like here's a major lead line, or like that would be all major, but if you incorporated both of them at once, you could have a cadence happening. So here's the here's that. And actually, you can use these sort of tritone sounds throughout jazz progressions to mix things up a little bit. Like instead of a 3-6-2-5-1 kind of thing, you can have a so that would be sounds a bit hipper, if you will. I learned a lot of that stuff from the playing of Brian Setzer, who has an excellent album called The Dirty Boogie. You can check that out, and it's got a lot of really interesting arrangements, and where he uses a lot of chords like that. Basically, that's called tritone substitution. So, let's see. This would be a tritone for 6. This would be a tritone for the 2. This would be a tritone for the, that's a 7 flat 5, going into the tonic B flat major 7. So yeah, it's like and yeah, so that could be pretty interesting sounding. Okay. So now, I've encountered some debate about this in various different sources, like Guitar World magazine and a whole bunch of music books that I have. And basically, some people believe that you should only use the diminished whole tone in minor progressions. So if I have B flat minor, here's diminished whole tone, F again. Has basically a mean sound, and what they suggest is that when you're playing something like jazz, to get the F flat 9, F7 flat 9 sort of sound like. So here's the major sort of licks again, like. But what I found is that they are both acceptable. If you use F7 sharp 9, diminished whole tone, or F7 flat 9 and half-whole diminished, I found that they're both in use, especially more in the fusion sort of category. So this is a pretty difficult concept to get your ears around at first, but I recommend listening to John McLaughlin as a guitarist. He does some excellent work with these sorts of scales, and also Alan Holdsworth, and both of these men are great students of John Coltrane. So if you really wanted to hear where this sort of stuff came from, John Coltrane was the big pioneer of these sorts of sounds when he was playing with Miles Davis and afterwards, and I can recommend the album My Favorite Things, also Kind of Blue. Those are two of my favorite albums featuring John Coltrane. So check those out, and good luck. And I hope I've been of some use in explaining this stuff. Go out and try it. Hi, I'm Jim Mason. I'm here to talk to you a bit today about arranging. What I've got is a tune called Satin Doll by Duke Ellington. And I've got the melody, chords, and some shell voicings and reharmonizations and extensions and so on to show you. So I'll just start with the basic melody that I picked out here. Okay, it goes something like this. So that's in C major, and then the bridge moves to F major and G major before going back to C major. So the melody is pretty straightforward. It's C major scale, and then in the bridge it moves to the F major scale briefly and the G major scale briefly. The turnaround's interesting because it has 6, 2, 6, 2, and then flat 6, flat 2, and then C. So it's da 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 da, like that. So I thought I'd pick the song because it's a fairly simple standard, and a lot of people play it, and it's got that kind of Duke Ellington kind of, recognizability to it, and sort of a well-known song. So what I've been able to do with these melodies is I've been trying to reharmonize them and also represent them in different ways. One of the latest ways I've learned to represent them is shell voicings, and I'll get to that in the next video. But first of all, I'd like to talk about what stock chord voicings are. Now, this would be the lead sheet for the tune. And you can get this from the Real Book, it's called, which basically contains a lot of standards in this form of a lead sheet, where you have the chord symbols and the standard notation melody. So I've been working with these for like 10 years. It's about every jazz combo I've played with at them, and they just throw you a lead sheet and say, hey, start playing, you know. So it's good to know these sorts of things. Some people call it a cheat sheet, or you know, it's just a very basic sketch of the tune that you should be able to embellish and improvise from. So if I were to play this song without the melody and just play the rhythm part, I'd probably play something like this. So it's so it's F major, A to G, this is G major, back it is. Bit of a tag. So yeah, that would be what I call closed voicings, or stock voicings, involving D minor 7, G13, A 7 sharp 5, and these sorts of things you can find in just about any jazz guitarist repertoire. But there's other ways of presenting the chords, and now I'll get to that shortly in my next video. Hi, this is Jeff Mason again. I am continuing to talk about Satin Doll and the harmony that is suggested by the lead sheet here, that I've been working from for quite some time. Over, for every jazz standard I've been trying to learn. So, okay, this song starts with what you call a 2-5. So it's a movement like that, and it ends on the 1 chord. Since we're in C major here, C. So what I've already done with this is, you can see that's a C major 9. You can also add the open E, because that would be the 3rd of the chord. So instead of just using, as it suggests, C major, I've already changed it to C major 9. C major 7 also works. C major 11, wherever that is, would work. C major 13 works. Let's see if I remember this one. Yes. This would be C major 13. So the reason for this is quite theoretical, but basically the thing to keep in mind is, for extensions, if you want to extend a chord and reharmonize it, the intervals you can use are the 6th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. And you can also, and 5th as well. You can also raise and sharp the 5th. And you can raise or sharp any of those intervals. You can have a, like this is C major 9 sharp 11. That has a pretty exotic sound, but it's very nice to end on chords like that. You can get some very dramatic endings. But as you can see, what I've already done is I've already added to G7 13. So that is the voicing that I like for that. And if you wanted to extend, as they call it, the harmony of the D minor 7, you could change it into a D minor 9. Or you could voice it like that. You could have a D minor 7 flat 5. That's a sharp 5 rather. This is a D minor 7 flat 5. It could be like that. It could be like G7 flat 5 into C, 13. That's much more exotic. Right? So, yeah, that would be extending the harmony. Also, here's a D minor 13. I kind of like that sound. Here's a D minor 11. You could even add all three of them if you want. It could be like, and it could be, and so that would be one chord per beat, like blah 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 blah, and then like blah 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 blah, right? You may notice what I'm doing also is I'm moving things up and down the neck a little bit here, like. That is called inversions of 4-note chords that I've learned from various tablatures and various books that I've been reading about jazz harmony. And what I've noticed is you can extend these inversions around the neck and they sound nice. So like here's a shape, follow this, 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 then this, then this. And then finally, there's C6 for instance. So if you play that a bit more up to speed, it would be like, yeah, I found that to be prevalent in a lot of the arrangements of Joe Pass, for instance. And he has a lot of these inversions sort of flying up and down the neck, and they sound really nice. They're also really nice for harmonizing individual notes. And we'll get to that, I guess, in part 3. Anyway, in part 2, when you're extending a chord, you can even make it a totally different chord. Like if it says on the lead sheet, again, this is our basic template of what we're doing. If it says D minor 7 and G7, you could just completely chuck that out. I mean, you could rewrite it as D7 sharp 9 sharp 5. So instead, you could have, it's got a much meaner sound, and you could keep going. You can put more dominant chords in, like. You can even add that, as the last note. That would be a 7 sharp 9 sharp 5. That's very dissonant to some people, but when the band is swinging and people are playing, if people are hip to that kind of sound, you could chuck it in and see who starts playing, who goes a little bit more dissonant with their dominant 7ths. So that's one way to play the song. You could just chuck out all the minor 7s and make them dominant. Which is a little bit heavy-handed, but it can be an interesting trick for jamming with. So let me see. The dominant 7s I was just playing there, this is your basic G7 shape that I would use. Some people call that a shell chord voicing. I don't want to confuse the terminology too much. I just call it a 3-note voicing, or basically a stripped down voicing, a three string voicing, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, what I usually do to these is I add the 13, or you can have the sharp 5, so this would be G7 sharp 5, this would be G7 flat 5. If you you wanted to add the flat 9, I just figured this one out. This is G7 flat 9 flat 5. Can't get my hand to move quite to that one at this stage, but I'm working on it. That's a nice one. And if you wanted a sharp 5 and a sharp 9, then this is usually what you hear for that. So here's a run I use a lot around this. So this is a G7 altered or extended, or sharp 5, sharp 9. So those are all the altered tones of G, which comprises a diminished whole tone scale, which I touched upon in my earlier videos. You might recognize the sound, and that's what I would use over the dominants, and sometimes over the minor sevens. But that depends on how adventurous you want to get. Anyway, so that's what I have for the altereds. So that's basically, like I said, there's D minor 13, D minor 11, D minor 9, and D minor 7 in various forms. Play that. And there's G7, G13, G7 sharp 5, G7 flat 5, flat 5, flat 9, and sharp 9, sharp 5. And for the major, I'm using like C6 sometimes like this. Then also C9, C major 7, like that, C6/9, which I use a lot. That's a nice one. And that's, you can invert that up and down the neck like that. And there's also C13, which I guess is as extended as you want to get, unless you want to chuck in the sharp 11. So with all of these different choices, you can move throughout the different keys in the song, embellishing all of the chords. So the next set of chords is E minor 7 to A7. So I had it as, and what I would do with that is, you know, you could change it to anything you want. It could be like, and then we're going into A minor 7, so why don't we make it A minor 13, you know. And then D can be D7 flat 9. You do that again. And back into C9. Hi, so this is part 3 of reharmonizing and substitutions and extensions on Satin Doll. Now, if you wanted to hear all of this stuff together, I'll just run through the song and try and keep it nice and embellished for you. So here we go. This is G. And this is A. That's 9 flat 13, or pardon me, flat 9 13. And that goes into G, which is G13. Back into the head. And you can also do this with scales. So here we go. This would be sort of C major, sort of. That's D. And then for A. And then A flat. So that leads us into the 6th of C. And we can keep going, you know. Just part, and for the D part, you could have and then back to A. So I usually play something like that. So again, then the bridge would be like this. You know, you could have that could be F and back it's a C. So and D. Then A Dorian. Ending on C. And yeah, so that's a bit of a running through those changes. Again, if you wanted to change the minor sevenths to dominant sevenths and alter them, then you would get more of a sound like this. And it's going to be kind of difficult, but I'll go slow. So here we have D altered, so D diminished whole tone. And then E, A diminished whole tone. And A diminished whole tone again. Then A flat diminished whole tone. And then you can even do C diminished whole tone. So that gets a bit screamy, but I've heard jams like that. Coltrane, I think, does that on some of his albums. My favorite things, what's the track? Summertime, off of that springs to mind. Or I heard that. Anyway, continuing with that, it goes into G, D, and F, you know, or G, C, and F, which would be pretty basic. But then if you add this, if you're like, it can be pretty dark sounding, and then you can have and have the same. Back to and E, and then to A flat, D flat, C, you can have it up here. Have something really sort of unpleasant to end it with, like, I don't know, C 13 sharp 11. That. Not sure, but anyway, you can see how that could totally change the entire song. But if the song was tending to drag out and you're jamming on it, it starts to get a little boring. You just hear this kind of. This just gets to be too major for my taste. So that's one thing you can do, is you can take all those chords and completely expand them into a totally different thing. And of course, as you might imagine, you can mix and match these approaches. If you had some of the chords that were D minor and G in traditional sort of 2/5 sounds, you can have like one of the chords be a minor 7 flat 5 and one of the be a G7, and then one of them be a minor 7 flat 5 and the other one be 7, and you know, then you have this one. You can keep this a dominant and then have this a dominant, and keep this dominant and have this dominant, and then just have a nice little C6 at the end of that. So you can mix and match those approaches, and then that'll allow for a lot of variety. So I'll be back with part 4. Thank you. Hi, this is Messiaen again, picking up where I left off with part 4 of Satin arranging techniques, extensions, substitutions, alterations, the kitchen sink. As one of my teachers used to say, trying to embellish this song as much as we can. So, what I recently heard was an excellent technique for doing chord melody guitar. What I've been playing up until this point could be just called, a combo sort of jazz guitar, comping, just your typical sort of closed voicings and, scalar run kind of stuff. But if you wanted to play unaccompanied and fingerstyle, then as I understand it, the best way to do that would be to transpose the melody an octave up and play the melody on the top two strings. So what I've done is I've been working on this technique for a while, and I transposed the melody that we had earlier, which was kind of like apparently that is bad for chord melody arranging, so what we want is something that spans more of the guitar neck. So what I've got now is this continues. For the bridge now goes, just bear with me here. Back to the head. That's the so yeah, I've got that on the top string, and apparently a lot of the big name fingerstyle guitarists that I've been trying to listen to over the years, such as Martin Taylor, Lenny Burrow, Tal Farlow, all kinds of people, what they've been trying to do is get the chords as small fragments, such as that, and in order to play them along with the melody. So again, bear with me here, I'm not a master of this technique by any means. I've just been investigating it, but should sound a little something like this. So it's and again, so now what I've done there is I've added below the melody, I've added something called a shell voicing, and that as its root on the A string, and what it implies is D minor 7. So if you can sort of stretch your ears, it's an inversion, a darker kind of lower inversion of D minor 7, and then it goes to G minor 7, or G dominant 7 rather. So it's like, the reason for this is to some ears that might sound pretty bad, but the notes are the same. They're just inverted in a different way. And you can hear that it allows a lot of flexibility, like we're sort of higher up the neck, like if you're just playing little chords like this. And like the basic example would be something like, you know, and you can have all of these notes moving together with a little suggestion of a chord going along. Piano players apparently play these shell voicings. Usually it's 2 or 3 notes. On guitar, it looks for this sort of application that the 2 notes would be good. And which 2 notes would you pick out of each chord? The 3rd and the 7th. So if I'm playing this for D minor 7, what I'm actually playing is the minor 3rd and the flat 7, just C. So that would be F and C. And now if I flat one note, I've got B and F, a tritone, which would imply G7. So let's keep doing that. Yeah, that is how shell voicings sound going through that progression. So basically, again, just taking the 3rd, be it a major or minor 3rd, and the 7th being a major or minor 7th, to denote what chord is going by. And this frees up your fingers to play stretches such as that, whatever stretches you need to incorporate the melody. So if we just do this again, I'll try and sort of run through this and maybe throw in some more standard chords as well. So yeah, it ends up here with this as the A to D, and then A flat to D flat, and then you could have that as C, because it actually has a 6th. So you have to know quite a bit about chords before you embark on this sort of reharmonization. I found it was quite difficult to get a grasp of why, you know, this chord and this chord are the same as, you know, this chord and this chord or whatever, and like, what kind of chord is that? And I mean, you have to have some sort of ear for what the chord is in the first place before you can start removing a whole bunch of things. Like, a lot of people will play, you know, for D minor 7, like I showed you those other shapes, like, you know, D, this, whatever they play up here, D minor 9, you know. But to play it just 2 notes on the A string and D string is pretty uncommon. And basically, like I said, that would be for chord melody playing. So let's see if I can get the bridge here. The bridge is like this, if I don't screw up too much. Hi, sorry, just a little glitch there, but here's the bridge to Satin with the shell voicings. Oops. No, not quite. So that'll be F major 7. This is another 2-note chord. And then the same thing again. So, yeah, up here I'm using the, that would be for a 2-5 and F, and then for 2-5, or, yeah, sorry, that'd be a 2-5 and F, but then that would be a 2-5 and G, and then back into the C part. So you see how you can have the same notes being played all over the neck. Sorry, I just something about the bridge here. So that's how I do that. And the same thing again. Back to that. So you can see with up here you get little chords like that. Sure. In this case, and yeah. So transposing the melody up an octave. Those are the shapes I would use to harmonize when playing further up the neck. So you can imagine if you were to combine all of these techniques through all parts of this video, you'd have quite a busy arrangement of the song, and you could play it completely unaccompanied. The next phase, I suppose, would be to add more scalar runs, more choral runs, try different combinations of chords and different combinations of inversions and alterations and everything you can think of. And I understand what's popular is adding a bass line as well, but I haven't quite gotten into that yet. So just some tips there. This last part just covering the shell voicings that I recently learned, and I hope that'll help you with your solo playing and your arranging and general musical knowledge. So, thanks for listening. Bye.